Welcome back to Twin Football, the YouTube channel that covers the Premier League and the NFL. But this time of year, it is all about college football. And we said it earlier in a couple of our episodes that I've been grieving as an Ohio State fan after the worst loss, I think, as a sports fan I have ever had to endure a week ago against Michigan in the game. So we had to bring David back. David, a tip of the cap. Congratulations, 4 in a row, another win for your Wolverines. What did you think of the game? How you feeling? Any reaction here a week later?
I mean, you never get upset about a win, But it's funny, all of my friends who are like, "Wow, what a great game." I'm like, "It was really not a great game.
Terrible.
Very ugly, but hey,
Terrible.
it doesn't
Mhm.
matter. To the victors go the spoils, and we won."
Yes. Yeah, I mean,
Pride and high.
in our last episode when we did the rivalry in depth, the history, the great games, the great coaches, a big theme of that episode was defense, defense, defense. And this game had that. You had a fourth down stand, you had picks, you had practically a pick six from Michigan and brought it all the way back down to the two. Some of those great defensive plays. But yeah, only 3 points in the whole second half. I mean, what is that? That's for these two teams, that's insane. And anytime you thought as an Ohio State fan that it was going to get going, it just got slammed in your face. Missed field goal, terrible play calling. So you thought it was a poor game. What did you think of it from a Ryan Day perspective? Do you think Ryan Day should be in the hot seat now? Is he in fear? Would you fire him? And I bring this up because obviously Jim Harbaugh had the same problem in his first couple of years, not being able to beat Ohio State. And a lot of the fan base, in my opinion, was going against him. So what are your thoughts as a terrible game, like you said? How much blame of that goes on the coaching?
We talked about before, like when we talked about this game,
Yeah.
the elements of an upset. And it's good defense, capitalize off the turnovers,
Right.
maybe get a little bit of luck from weather, good
Yeah.
special teams. And Michigan had the good special teams, and Ohio State did
Huge.
not. So, but it was a little puzzling, I'll admit. Ohio State's best drive was just before the half, and
Yes.
they have no
2 minutes.
problem scoring a touchdown.
What?
Like, I'm like, just do that. you
All
know?
the fans in the stadium were saying, just do
Yeah.
that for sure.
I mean, when they're running the ball right into two NFL, probably first round picks,
oh, for sure.
Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. And that's what they're doing the whole game. The weak part of Michigan is the secondary. So I was a little confused. I don't know. Maybe something was off with Will Howard in the practice leading up to it. Maybe he couldn't throw. Who knows? When it comes down to it, I always say be careful what you wish for, because if they do let Ryan Day go, is it necessarily going to be better? And is it necessarily going to be better tomorrow? You know what I mean? And that's what everybody wants. And you can't lose to Michigan. I totally get it. But John Cooper hung around for 13 years losing
Yeah,
to
and he
Michigan.
consistently lost to Michigan. So
You
take me
know?
back a couple years
Yeah.
ago, when Jim Harbaugh was getting into turning the program around, he had 10 win seasons as soon as he got there. 10 wins, 10 wins, 10
Yep.
wins. But blowout losses in this game, not
Right.
just a 3-point loss because your kicker can't make a field goal from inside the 30-yard line. So but take me back to that time period as a Michigan fan. Were you pitchforks out, ready to rip him out, or what was your sense for him and where the program is going?
So I think what really set it into the pitchfork thing was the abbreviated 2020 season. Now, they didn't
Yeah.
play Ohio State
Yeah.
that year. They
No.
only played 6 games. They went 2-4. First loss to Indiana in forever. First
Yeah.
loss to all of these programs in a really, really long time.
Mhm.
And credit to him, he totally redid himself. He got rid of the defensive coordinator, brought on some young talent with the help of his brother, and turned it around. So it still can happen. And literally, other than the Michigan game, Ryan Day's record is stellar. I
Yes.
mean,
Yeah.
it's fantastic. And he's still in the playoff. They're still alive. They could win a national title. So Ohio State fans would love the national title, but they'd be really, really ticked that they lost to Michigan.
Yeah, that's exactly the sentiment because everybody doesn't want Ryan Day because of the fact that he can't beat Michigan, and they feel like that's going to be year in, year out, always losing to Michigan. And I can't tell you, Michigan had obviously the game to play for, the rivalry to play for, but in terms of postseason, you were bowl
Sure.
eligible by one game. Your playoffs were not going to happen, so that was kind of it. Win this game or not, whatever. And to lose that game in the fashion of which Ohio State lost that game, it scarred me for the rest of the season. And we'll get into the college football playoff and our reactions and all that kind of stuff, but it scarred me. And that loss is going, like we mentioned in the rivalry video, it sticks with you, these losses. But this
Yeah.
one, I don't think I will forget in 50, 60 years from now, this specific loss, how much it has gutted the fan base.
Yeah.
And I have always been someone who has been Ryan Day in, supporting him staying, even when we've lost the last couple of games. But you lose to a team that was 6-5 coming into it, new head coach, half your roster went to the NFL. You have all of this stuff going on behind the scenes and, allegations from the previous year and all this kind of stuff. A quarterback that's a walk-on. He completed 9 passes, guys, 9 passes in the game. And he won the football game. And you won the football game and then immediately fired your offensive coordinator for being so poor. And you still beat us.
Right.
You still beat us.
Yeah.
How can you let this happen? I am having, even myself, as someone who's always been Ryan Day in, is having such a hard time supporting that he stays no matter what happens. And so you looking back on Jim Harbaugh, you put him in your Mount Rushmore.
So I
Your
did because
top
of
4.
I did because of the last 3 years, and I'll admit
Exactly.
after
So
the
it changed everything. Changed everything for you.
100%. After the 2020 season, I was on the bandwagon of, hiring Matt Campbell. Or, 'cause
Huge.
every few years, Matt Campbell, it's the Matt Campbell
Yes.
sweepstakes, and, so, or Matt Rule for that matter at the
Yeah.
time.
Oh, for sure.
But I was on the bandwagon of, nope, I think it's time. It's been 6 years. It's been 5 of Ryan Day, and 1-4 against Michigan. I definitely think there's an element of Michigan being in his head and him over preparing and overthinking rather than just go out there and play. Because if they had just gone out there and played,
like the 2-minute drill, like you mentioned, that's the definition of going out and play. You can't do anything besides rely on your playing ability and your prep at that point. There's nothing else because it's too quick.
Right. And you throw it to your awesome receivers. Jeremiah Smith and Egbuka are fantastic, and that's Michigan's weakness. It was overthought.
It was so overthought. So you're watching that game before I move on to the college football playoff. You're watching that game. Are you just like in disbelief and excitement that this is the game plan?
Kind of. I mean, I definitely sat there and I watched it with my sister who lives in Ohio but went to Michigan, so she's a Michigan fan.
Oh, she knows it. Okay, fair enough.
We're all watching it and we're like, especially when it was 10-3 just before the half, we all said, "Can something happen to make them call this game?" Like, we have to call it, and we have to go with the results that are, because I didn't think it would be good in the second half, and it was more of the same.
Yeah, see, so you would expect at halftime for there to be some readjustment, especially with that 2-minute drill to end the half. The best drive of the game was a pass-heavy, quick-paced drive, and then you would just start this second half is like, okay, we understand how to win now. Let's go ahead and go do that. And then they didn't even try to do that. Didn't even try. Not that they tried and it failed, because Michigan also made adjustments. They didn't even try it. They just stuck with it. Right. And I think you are completely right when you say it's Michigan's in Ryan Day's head. He wants to win this game running the football. He doesn't want to win the game. He wants to win it running the football. And there is no reason to do that against a Michigan team. That's all they really, at this point, can do. Right. I mean, you go back the last 4 games, in total, 16 quarters of football, you have 4 wins against Ohio State and 50 completions. That's it, passing completions. That's 3 a quarter. You're not passing the football. So Ohio State, yes, it would be great to win running the football, but you got to just win the game. You just got to go out and win the football game.
I think he just has to stick to that. And if he's back next year, we have to win this game. I don't care how it gets done. We just have to win it.
I know. And the thing is, we're going to run into the problem that you guys kind of have this year, which is all of our talent that came back is now have to leave, go to the NFL, do whatever. And we got to retool and restock. Whereas you now are sitting on a team that has a win in this game and you'll be at home. So it makes it even harder.
But nowadays in college football, as we've seen with Indiana, you can very easily go to the portal, get the guys that you need. Yes, it's always better to develop, because then they all play together and they know each other and they trust each other. And we see that all the time in sports. But you can plug and play We see this in other levels. The Lions have been very good at plugging and playing with their
Yes.
injured defense and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So it's still there. Don't worry.
Yeah.
It's not over.
Yeah. Well,
It's not
we
over.
said that about Will Howard, and he had his worst performance of the season against Michigan.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that was hurtful. So I want to get your thoughts here. We're going to move on over. College football playoff obviously came out yesterday. This is what the 12-team format is going to give us, these interesting games in late December in the snow, a good mix of teams that wouldn't have ever even dreamed about being in the playoff this time last year. Teams like Clemson, who were able to come in through the end and win their title game, but didn't really have a good season. Teams like Arizona State, Boise State, SMU, these teams that shouldn't really be in here, but they're going to be in here, and Boise State, Arizona State getting a bye. So, in your opinion, as someone who's gone through the Jim Harbaugh years of unable to beat Ohio State, beating Ohio State dominantly, and then going on to win a national championship, what does Ryan Day and Ohio State have to do in this playoff for you to believe that he should keep his job?
I think that the expectation before the season started for Ryan Day was at least make the championship game. You know what
Okay.
I mean? And I heard multiple outlets say, hey, winning the national championship may be unrealistic because, hey, it's 60 minutes, anything can happen, stuff like that. I don't think that this actually sets up that bad for them. They get to have a home playoff game,
Huge.
which is huge, huge. Like, that's so fun.
In the
Like,
snow.
and SMU coming to Penn State is awesome. Indiana, it's already cold there, and it's
Yeah,
State.
yeah.
That's less impressive. But South
Yeah.
Bend in December is freezing.
Yes.
And
Oh my God.
so these home playoff games are awesome. So hopefully they handle their business against Tennessee. A
Well,
rematch, yeah.
they have to run the football in that game because it's going to be cold.
Yeah, well,
So
I don't think Tennessee has the defensive line that Michigan has, though.
that is true. Yeah, it's
You
not
know,
a
so you
all
don't.
NFL defensive line that the up front of Michigan has. So yes, I would agree. It should hopefully go better. Okay, so let's say we beat Tennessee and we get a
Yep,
matchup with Oregon.
great.
Is
You
that
should
a
have won.
must win?
Oh, for sure. But you
Yeah.
should have won the first time. I'm watching that game. They're driving the ball no problem at the very end.
Yeah.
And then that was another bizarre play calling. They could have ran it up the middle and kicked a long field goal rather than trying to throw it and then he gets sacked. And then you're out of field goal range. So I remember watching that being like, you should have won the first time. So, and it's very tough in college football to beat a team twice.
Twice.
College
Yes.
basketball, it's hard to beat them 3 times. So that's going to be hard on Oregon to beat Ohio State. And it's in the Rose Bowl.
Yes.
Which is
Oh,
awesome.
that's a funny dynamic here.
Yep.
You might have two Big Ten teams playing in the Rose Bowl, which is actually like a historic
an old-
matchup of Oregon,
Right.
Ohio State, Pac-12, Big
'Cause
Ten.
they're a Pac-12 team. So
Yeah.
that was not an accident, I'm pretty sure.
No, are you kidding me? Why is Penn State ranked higher than Ohio State? We lost 2 games each. They lost to Oregon. We lost to Oregon. We beat them. I don't get it. Doesn't make any sense except for this reason, like you mentioned.
I think
It's
they're
to get
better.
the
Well,
Rose
I
Bowl.
don't know. Playing Boise would be pretty nice too.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Penn State has to be sending you guys flowers, bouquets, something, because the fact
Oh,
that you beat us gave them a free game to play in Indianapolis, show what they got. You lose to Oregon, don't worry about it. You beat Oregon, wow, that would have been amazing.
yeah, they
But
would.
now
They'd
you
probably been the
get
1 seed. Yeah.
yeah, now you leapfrog Ohio State because they lost to Michigan. You get to play SMU at home, a team from Texas in the freezing cold. You're going to win that. And then your reward for that is to play Boise State at a neutral site. You don't even have to go to the blue turf over there across the country. You get to play them at a neutral site game where your fans are going to outnumber them 99-1, and it's going to be over at halftime. They have to be in the best spot in this playoff. Has to be Penn State. Also, you're on the side of the bracket that gets Georgia, whose quarterback is now going to be out for most likely for the rest of the season. Yeah. Indiana and Notre Dame got to go blow for blow and then go blow for blow over Georgia while Penn State gets to cruise into the semifinal. I think Penn State has to make the national championship with this bracket. But, okay, let's go back to the other side. Oh, you don't think so?
I wouldn't sleep on Notre Dame, though.
Okay.
I know they had that mishap against Northern Illinois, but that was like forever ago now. Like 3 months ago. That's like an eternity in a college football season.
True.
But I agree. I would probably pick Penn State or Notre Dame from that half.
Yeah. Okay. So Penn State, Notre Dame, especially with Georgia's injuries. But now we turn. So Ohio State has to beat Oregon. So let's say they do manage that and you got a matchup with Texas. You haven't made the national championship game yet, like you mentioned. You have now won 2 games, which would have won you a national championship back in the day against good competition. Is that game a must-win for Ryan Day for you to feel comfortable?
I don't know. I mean, I'm perfectly comfortable with Ryan Day staying the head coach of Michigan at Ohio State. As a Michigan
Yeah.
fan, it's like we never
Yeah,
want John Cooper fired.
true.
So you keep
Mm.
Ryan Day for as long as you want. So I'd ask you as an Ohio State fan.
Yeah, it's like my heart versus my brain in this one. My brain tells me the best thing you want in your coach is the ability to assess and then adjust, right? No one's going to do everything perfectly. If you can go through a season, figure out what went well, what went poorly, and then fix what went poorly into the next season, that's the sign of a great coach, a long term success model as well. He has done that up until this point, giving up the play calling duties, hiring different members of staff, changing his role a little bit, focusing on NIL, raising that, using those funds, getting in transfers. He's not been Dabo Sweeney, who just won't adapt to the transfer portal. He's been
Sure.
very flexible like that. But I had that thought until last week because he didn't adjust at halftime. I know he's not calling the plays, but at some point you could see a Bo, a Woody, if they weren't calling plays or, they're just the head coach, grabbing the play caller by the scruff of the neck and just saying, screw what you've been doing, get me down the field, get me this, get me that. And he didn't do that. And it was there for the taking. Ohio State fans booed when we were about to go up by 3. Like we were booing in our home stadium because of the play calling when we would have went up 3 in a game, a low scoring game. That would have been huge.
Yeah.
So I think for there not to be a very strong force of kicking him out at the end of the season, he has to win a national championship. And it is great that it's this. It's Tennessee, one of the offensive teams of the SEC. It's a rematch with Oregon. It's Texas, who was a pre-year national favorite, maybe everyone's favorite to win it. And then it's we think Penn State or Notre Dame, but obviously Georgia, it should be the team technically as a 2 seed. It would be Georgia. That would be the hardest national championship probably ever won because you would play 4 arguably top 6 teams in a row in the span of 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks to win the national championship. And that's the only way I think he gets any saving grace. But my brain says he should stay because of all that other success. And so I am so excited and pumped to watch these games because I think the fan base is going to be on a roller coaster ride. And if they are losing for a second at home to Tennessee, which is very interesting. So how do you feel about those? We're excited about those home games, but it's around Christmas time. There's not many people on campus. What do you think the atmospheres are going to be?
Oh, there will be plenty of people there.
Plenty,
This is different. This is totally different. I
Mm.
remember some preseason predictions and stuff like that before we saw what Michigan was going to be. They actually had Michigan slated to play Notre Dame in the first round at Notre Dame. And I was like, if that's the case, I am getting tickets and going because I will sit in the snow and I don't care if it's Christmas Eve. Like,
that almost makes it better, I guess.
Yeah,
I get Notre Dame Christmas time.
The students might not be there. That might diminish the atmosphere a little bit, but you can't imagine that the Ohio State faithful will not show up for that game.
Yeah,
they will
first
pack the thing,
game,
and everybody will be wearing red, and it will be very, very intimidating for Tennessee.
Yeah,
I would say the Big Ten has historically had a problem with bowl, and this is why I liked this format because I was like, all right, the Southern teams have to come up here.
Exactly. That's been the whole thing. They get to play
in the snow,
warm games, and then get a nice dome game or a bowl game out west. And now they get to feel what we have to go through in our regular season. It's like smash mouth football.
It's like the bowl game was always in Florida, and you're playing against Florida, so it's basically a road game, more or less.
Exactly.
And it's warm, and you miss the elements that you have in late November and
especially when you get to bring a team.
South Bend, and it's going to be great. It's very exciting.
Yeah. Oh, I would have loved a Georgia to go play at South Bend, like a Alabama or a Georgia. It kind of sucks that it's Indiana, who's right down the road. To play in.
Well, that'll come. I mean, but that'll come over the years if they keep the same format. I know they talked about doing 14, so there'll be even one fewer bye. It'll come.
It'll work itself out. Yes.
It'll come.
There you have it. Thank you for joining us. But
Of course.
please let us know in the comment section below all of your thoughts on the college football playoff. But more importantly, should Ryan Day make it to next year? And if not, is there anything he can do to make it to next year? It's going to be the talk of the college football playoff and the offseason, depending on how Ohio State does. David, thank you so much for joining us. I have to tip
Sure.
my cap of undisputed champion here to you. The first playoff champion was Ohio State. 10 years on, we play in the first expanded playoff. And how much poetry would it be to go ahead and be the undisputed champion of the 12-team playoff 10 years on? It would be wonderful. So let's hope that happens. I don't know if it'll save Ryan Day's job. But again, David, congratulations on the win. And thank you for joining us. Enjoy the football.